Hi, my name is Perrin. My City of Heroes name is Tremalian, and I'm going to show you how to make a personalised scarf for one of your characters. This is what the scarves look like. These are 3 I've made before. We'll be making one for a blaster today, whose name's Quantum Mechanic. And I'll give you a preview of what the finished product will look like, and I'll show you Quantum Mechanic. This is what the finished scarf looks like. Obviously, you can make your design whatever you want. This is just an example. This is Quantum Mechanic, just so you have an idea of who I'm trying to represent in my scarf. So here's the equipment you'll need. First off, you need to print the design you want on your scarf. Make sure that all of the lettering has been mirrored so that it prints backwards. Scissors to cut out your design. Scissors for the fabric. Some Vlysoflex, which is double-sided sticking agent for fabric. 2 colours of polar fleece, 8 inches of each colour. Felt to match the colours that you want in your design. Thread to match the fabric. Pins, a ruler, and a sewing machine. These things here are optional. If you have them, it will make your job a little easier. Some spray adhesive, a rotary cutter, and an unpicker. Take your 8 inches of polar fleece, fold it in half long ways, and then in half again. With your ruler, mark off a straight edge. You can do this by putting one edge along the fold, and then this will be straight. Measure up 6 inches. And mark off another straight line. Then cut it out. Do the same thing for the other colour fabric. I'll do it with the rotary cutter this time. For both pieces, you'll need to cut off the selvages, which is the ugly bit on the edges that the machine's left. We're done with these for now, so just put them to the side. The next thing we're going to do is sort out our design for the scarf. So here I've written what colours are going to be used for each part. Next, we're going to cut our felt and Vlysoflex to match the shapes we've chosen for our design. I only have a small amount of black in this design. I need to cut a piece of felt that will cover that. And I need to cut a piece of Vlysoflex to match. Do the same for every colour in your design. Now we have all our colours cut out with a matching piece of Vlysoflex. We need to iron the Vlysoflex onto the felt. First thing you need to do is put down a protective cover onto your ironing board, otherwise the Vlysoflex will stick to it. Put your felt good side down. Take the Vlysoflex and put it rough side down onto the felt. Make sure the rough side is down because this is the sticky side, and if you put your iron on it, you will cause a huge mess. Your iron should be heated to cotton. Give it a quick steam and run over it, and then press down all over the Vlysoflex, and it should stick nicely to the felt. So as you can see, this is stuck to the backing. That's why we don't want to iron straight onto the ironing board. Okay, now we just do the same for all the other pieces. Okay, we're done. Back to the rest of our scarf. Starting with your background colours, which is white in my case, stick each part of your design onto the back of the felt, so where the Vlisoflex is, and then we're going to cut around each part. If you have spray adhesive, use that to stick the pieces of paper onto the Vlisoflex. If you don't, use pins to pin it down. Once we have all our background pieces cut out, we can take these off. Remember, you're only peeling off the paper here, not the back of the Vlisoflex yet. Okay, now we can do our second layer. We're just going to cut around each individual letter. And there's a lot of letters, so this will take a while. Finished cutting out my black letters for Virtue and my red letters for Quantum Mechanic, and now I'm going to take the inside white piece of the council logo and the blast part of the blaster logo and cut them out on another piece of white. Now that we have all the individual parts of the design cut out, we need to peel the Vlisoflex off the back of each piece except the base pieces and arrange the felt in order. We'll start with the blaster logo. The white circle goes on the bottom, so we'll leave the Vlisoflex on for now. The red circle goes next. We'll peel. Can be a little difficult to start the peel, but once you've got it, just peel the layer off. Do the same for the council logo, so leave the Vlisoflex on the bottom. I'm going to do the same with the letters, And then I'm going to take them over to the ironing board and press them all together. All our small pieces have been stuck together now. You can leave them like this, or you can satin stitch or zigzag stitch around the edges. I'm not going to stitch around the letters, they're too small. You could hand stitch them, but they will stay on as they are as long as you don't treat it too roughly and don't put it in the washing machine. Stitches on buttonhole, and I'm using a medium zigzag. I'm going to start at the bottom so it's not quite as noticeable where I've started. See, that just makes it look a little more finished off. To get the loose ends through to the back, thread the needle through to the back. And just tie them off in a knot. I'm going to do the same to the outline of the blast. Okay, now it's time to lay out the design on your scarf. I want mine to be on the blue side, laid out so the ends are even and flat so you can see where the design's going to go. Remember to leave ½ inch on the bottom because we're going to need to turn that in for the bottom seam. You also need to leave room at the sides for the side seams, so make sure there's at least ½ inch there. Peel the Vlizo flex off the backing pieces. And put them in place. This is the layout for my scarf. Now I need to cover it with a cloth and iron it on. Work very quickly because the polar fleece will melt. Okay, now again, you can just leave it like this if you like, or you can do some more satin stitching just to finish it off a bit. I'm going to satin stitch around the outside of these two rectangles, around the circles, and around this rectangle here. These are too small. I'm not going to do anything with them. They will stay stuck on fine. These will also stay stuck on fine. It's just to make them look more finished. Everything has now been satin stitched on. Not sure if you can see the difference on the screen, but it just looks a bit neater. But as I said, you can skip that step completely if you want. Now we need to put the scarf together. So we're going to pin our scarf together and sew it up. We're almost done. With right sides together, if you can't tell which is the right side, pull it along the stretch and it will curve towards the wrong side. With right sides together, line up the short ends and pin. Polar fleece creeps. As you sew, it will move. You need to use a lot of pins to stop that. Line up the other end and pin. Do the same along the length of the scarf. I folded the scarf up so you can see the whole thing. We're just going to sew it together using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. On the short end, start 1 inch away from the long end. Sew along 1 inch, turn, sew the whole way down, turn, sew across the short end, come back down the long end and sew in 1 inch on the short end. There should be a 4 inch gap left so we can turn it inside out. I'll be sewing this using a straight stitch on stitch length 3. Sewn along 3 of the sides, and now we just need to turn our scarf in the right way. Turn the corners out. Okay, and on this end, turn your corners out as well. And turn your ends in. We're just going to hand sew the ends closed. And you're all done. Scarf's finished. Don't forget to send me some pictures. My contact details will be in the description. If you make it, I would love to see what you've done. We've got our scarf, we've got our shirt, we're ready to go and fight some monsters.